Hey everybody, haven't done an update in a while. Just thought I would get in here and do one. Um, so yeah, lots happened. Let me find the day today. It looks like it is August 30th. Yeah, it's still before midnight, so it's going to be August 30th going on. Let's see, what is it, July 31st, August 30th. So it'll be some September 1st here in about an hour. So, but I thought I'd get on here and talk to everybody. Lots going on over the past couple weeks, or maybe it's probably been a month or so since I've really done one of these videos. Where to start? So Kim Jong-un, I took some notes. This was probably about a week ago today. Kim Jong-un is allegedly in a coma, and his sister, I can't remember her name right offhand without looking it up, but she, they're talking about her looking to take over, but a lot of people are even saying she's more ruthless than Kim is, Jong-un is. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of people really want women leaders, and then now all of a sudden they're bashing potential women leaders. I guess women dictators are worse than women, democracy, republic type people. I don't know. We'll see. Haven't heard much out of that over the last couple days. Nothing new. So, excuse me. So Trump released, they had the DNC, the Democratic National Convention not this past week, but the week before, and then the Republican National Convention this past week. Democratic National Convention, what parts and pieces I picked up on that, it was depressing to me a little bit, because all they were really doing, it was just a Trump bash fest. That's all everybody was doing, just bashing the current administration, bash, how bad things are, when things really aren't that bad. I mean, it's sort of a loaded thing, and a lot of people think everything's bad, and but we're going through COVID, and whether you like it or not, COVID happened. The economy, fell. It dipped, and I've heard in some of the White House press conferences they talk about the V. So you got pre-COVID, it went down, and then now it's Ving back up post-COVID. So that's what they're talking about in the White House press conferences when they talk about like a V. And then I think it was in a DNC or an RNC rally, not a rally, but when he went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and was talking to the people, somebody yelled out like, "No, it's a super V," and it is, because that V, when you look at the high of the Trump administration, and then where it went during COVID, and then where it's come back to now, it's almost equal. Well, my middle finger is bigger than my first finger, but it's almost equal to where it was before COVID when it comes to stock market. And as I've said in previous videos, the stock market's not just something for the rich. You got standard average working class people out here, even if it's just like some girl working at a law firm, as a paralegal or as a secretary, that they have a 401k most likely, and money in, say I'm just going to use like a 28-year-old, because I know some 28-year-old single females with no kids. So, they've worked in a legal setting probably since they were out of college. So say 21, 22. So probably for 6-7 years, if they were smart, they've been dumping all the money they could into their 401k. It was the highest percentage or whatever the employer would match. So they might have a pretty hefty amount of money in there. It could be, I don't know, $10, $15, $20, $30,000. And where the market's gone since Trump's got into office, it's gone way up in the last 3 years. I've used the example with some friends talking about the economy. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe when Obama left office, the stock market was sort of an average, mediocre. I think it was like 18,000 or 19,800 or something like that. I'd have to look it up, the exact number, but 19,000, so less than 20,000. Since then, it's gone up well over 20 some thousand. Let me ask Siri here. Hold on. What's the Dow Jones Industrial Average?
Dow Jones Industrial Average traded up 0.57% last Friday at 28,653.87.
28,653.87 since Trump took office. So it's almost up 10,000 points. Now, a lot of Democrats and hardcore, like Democrat liberal people are going to say, well, that's just because since the COVID, they've been pumping money into the market. They've been pumping it, and, the Fed and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter. He's in office. It's going up. People are confident. He's going out and saying, let's open back up the businesses. See, that's what stuff moves on. That's what the market moves on. Now, if Trump were to come out tomorrow in the 5 o'clock White House press conference or 4 o'clock and say, we're closing down everything because the Democrats want us to. Joe Biden wants us to close it down. Or all the Democratic governors saying we need to shut down everything again. The market's going to crash. He can make it crash if he wants to, if he does what the Democrats tell him to do. But he's saying the opposite. We need to open back up. We need to open back up. And even though COVID's not gone, he's trying to give people hope, that things are going to be better. It's not a lie. It's just giving people hope. Sure, people are going to get sick. Sure, people are going to die. But you don't want the doom and gloom attitude toward this pandemic we're going through. So he's doing his best to try to give hope to people, to keep the markets up, and obviously the markets are up. It's, like I said, 10,000 points or so above when Obama left office. That's huge. Huge, as Trump would say. So let's just stop with that. That's just BS. The market's up, things are up. And again, going back to that little secretary who worked at the paralegal or whatever, I mean, she might have had $30,000 in there, a couple years ago. Say after 3 years, say she was making $50,000 a year and she's putting in, 10 or 15%. Say she had $20,000 or $30,000 in after a couple years of working there. And then, Trump took office and it's up 30%, or not, yeah, about 30%. Or no, 20 to 30,000, that would be 50%. So the market's up that much, and usually younger people they allocate their money into more risky investments, like high risk investments. So if she put it in the high risk and it's doing good, I mean, she might have gone from $20,000-$30,000 up to 50, 40, 50, 60, and including the additional money she's added while he's been in office. So that young person's doing rather well, and that's the future of our country. That young person, she's probably going to get married in a couple of years and pop out a kid or two, or 2.3 kids? 2.3 kids these days, and raise those 2.3 children into productive people. So, and maybe your husband or whoever that's going to be, he probably had a 401k too, and they're going to be able to put their, retire and put their kids through college and everything. So, the economy's not bad right now. Sorry to say. If you're lazy and you don't have a 401k and you're just sitting back living off the government dime, or you just have no motivation to even go out and get a job, that's your own fault. Sorry to say. You knew what you had to do. And I won't even call you lazy. I'm just saying, lack of foresight. Invest your money. That's all I got to say. Okay, enough with that. So let's see. So Trump also released his second term sort of platform points, what he wants to do in his second term, and that got a lot of attention from numerous bloggers and stuff. And actually, it was Tim Pool, the guy I mention all the time, Tim Pool, former Vice News, former liberal, now sort of left libertarian. But he every time I hear him, He's not moving more toward the right, but the left is moving more to the left. So the left is going to the left. He's staying in the same place he's always been, but that same place he's always been is moving to the right. So it's just the way it's going, people. The left is going so far left that it's scaring a lot of Democrats. So Tim Pool, when those second term, the agenda came out, he pretty much put out a video and just said, hands down, full stop, I'm voting for Trump. Forget everything the Democrats have said over the last 6, 9 months, 10 months, ever since the Democratic debates were going on and everything. He's just like, I'm voting Trump. Now the co-host he used to have, Adam Krigler, I believe was his name, he went that route even ahead of time. He went that route months ago. Even going as far as wearing a MAGA beanie. He's not a hat guy, but he had a MAGA beanie hat on. If the video got 40,000 likes, he would put that on. So, but Tim's basically saying the same thing. So that's huge. I'm starting to sound like Trump. Sorry guys. I know I'll get some comments on that, but yeah, it's huge. Everything that's happening now is huge because, back to the party moving to the left and stuff, after the RNC, C-SPAN opens up the Democratic phone lines, the Republican phone lines, and the other phone lines, and has people call in, and lifelong Democrats from across the country were calling in and saying that, we're not going to be voting, not even that they're not going to be voting for Biden. They actually said, we are switching to Republican. That's how far the party has shifted to where it's not just, I'm just going to vote for the other side because they're the lesser of two evils. They actually went as far to say that they are switching from Democrat to Republican in their registration. And there was like a 9-minute video out there on YouTube of numerous Democrats calling in after Trump's RNC speeches and everything. And it wasn't even the big speech he gave at the end of it. I think it might have been Wednesday night after the third night, and people saying, that they're switching. So that's huge. Rasmussen and a couple other polls have put the black African-American vote at, I think it was 8% in the 2016 election. Now there's polls saying that it's up anywhere from 25 to like 30+% of African Americans that strongly approve of Trump. That's huge. They've always said in the past, if any Republican was able to get 20% of the black vote, then it's over. It's landslide. 20%. So now it's up to like 25 plus, 30+% potentially. And it started as a Rasmussen poll, then there was like an Emerson something poll, and then like 2 or 3 more. And yeah, so that's a big deal. We'll see what happens. But there's more and more black people coming out, and African American. There was, even during the Republican National Convention, you had Tim Scott, who's a Republican from South Carolina. Of course, he's going to support it. But then there was another fellow from Georgia. I don't have things pulled up, so I forget. You can go look it up yourself. Just African American, Democrat, RNC. Just search for that. And even he's like, I'm voting against the party. And his party wanted him to resign and leave because he supported Trump. But he's like, hell no. No, that's not how this place works. You can vote for whoever you want. You can support whoever you want. It doesn't matter what party you are. If you don't support a particular candidate, that doesn't mean you can't stay in your party. I mean, yes, it would have been better if he would have switched parties, but maybe his district's overall Democrat. He wants to keep in his position. If he were to switch to Republican, then that would change the whole dynamic of his election. He shouldn't have to do that. He should be able to stay in whatever party that he's always been in, or even if the party has changed since he got into it, he still believes in those initial party principles. I remember reading an article somewhere that was saying, like, if John F. Kennedy was alive today, he would be a Republican. He would be running on the Republican ticket because the party has shifted so much in the last, I guess it's 60 years since he ran, that it's unrecognizable from what it used to be, or may have used to have been. So that just tells you, everything's fluid. But the one thing I don't believe is that the parties switched. I don't think it went, the Republicans went from, the Republican Party was founded on anti-slavery. That's the only reason it exists. It was started in 1860 to combat slavery. And Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. And then, throughout the early 1900s and everything, a lot of people say that the party switched. But even after the Civil War in like the 1870s, 1880s, there were anywhere from, I think it's 29 to be exact, but it was anywhere from like 25 to 30 African-American Republican politicians became congressmen and senators of the United States on the Republican ticket. The Democrats were the racist ones. They were the party of the KKK, the party of slavery. And then, the Democratic Party, just like they are today, they became so desperate to change their image and everything that they're calling the Republicans racist, just like they did back then, they're doing it again now. And that's just not the case. The Republican Party is not a racist party. Every Republican I know, good Republican, I'm not talking about, like idiot rednecks in Kentucky who, were raised to be bigots, who were raised to not like, people of color, those darkies or whatever you want to say, that's every normal Republican I've ever met, which is the vast majority of the party. They're not racist people. I'll even say the same thing about the Democrats. The vast majority of Democratic members, they're not racist. But where Republicans are a little bit more open-minded, see, Republicans tend to watch their own news sources, Fox News. If you go a bit further to the right, they might watch Breitbart, Ben Shapiro, even going as far as like InfoWars and Alex Jones. But they also watch what's happening in the leftist channels, the leftist media channels, CNN, MSNBC, and the others. They watch that too, and they come up with their own opinion based on watching more sources. Whereas the Democrats, most Democrats that I know at least, personally, they tend to be very much confining themselves into the echo chamber of the CNN, MSNBC, and CBS. And they sort of contain themselves, and they don't watch what's happening on Fox. They don't watch what's happening in other media, and they're just listening to the pundits and to the biased and opinionated hosts on these channels. Whatever they say, that becomes their mantra. That becomes their entire belief system. Every time I have like a debate with a hardcore, I should say a party line Democratic liberal, every time I might have a debate with them on a particular topic, exactly what they throw out is exactly what some host on one of the channels are saying. So I know their thought's not free. They've been indoctrinated. Whereas people on the right tend to have much more a diversity of thought across the board. Whether they're completely open, people like I am, to be honest. I mean, I'm actually very socially liberal, but fiscally and morally more on the conservative side. There are other Republicans who are just hardcore party line, but most of them are still relatively open-minded people who have heard a diversity of thought. And it's just not the same case on the other side. So that's all I'm going to say on that. So I'm trying to keep to my notes here a little bit. So let's see. Biden and Kamala, I'm sorry. I didn't say Kamala. I'm going to scrub that. Shoot, they were calling people racist for calling her Kamala. They didn't know how to pronounce her name. They're terrible people. But, yeah, so Kamala. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm saying it right. And Joe Biden, that's the biggest joke in the world. I want people to be honest. If I could ask one thing, I want people on the left to be honest. When they post Biden Harris 2020, are they posting that because Biden's name is in it, or do they believe in what Biden is saying, or what he may have stood for in the past, which is mostly racist, to be honest. You know, the Clinton crime bill and the civil rights stuff that he voted against back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, the busing scandal, that he even went against Kamala against, you know, when she called him out for being racist back in the Democratic debates. It's the worst matchup they could have made. I mean, you know, Kamala completely shredded Biden in the early debates. He should have dropped out when she shredded him. He shouldn't even be around. He shouldn't even be there. They just needed the big name. They needed the big name. And Kamala on her own, she only got like 2%. Buttigieg was a little bit higher. I think he was up in the upper single digits or something. Tulsi Gabbard, she never really got the support of the party. They called her a communist. Well, Hillary called her a Russian asset, which is a bunch of BS. See, who was the other big one? I can't even remember. There were so many. But nobody had as good of a percentage as Biden. And even the Biden percentage was completely media manipulated. I mean, they pushed him, trying to get him through, even though he was, you know, couldn't defend himself, couldn't defend his record. They pushed him, and everybody else dropped out, and they kept pushing. They're still pushing, and then you got Kamala on board, and now they're best of friends after she called him out for being a horrible person and a racist and everything. You know, now they're best of friends, and I want Democrats to be honest. Are they voting for Biden, or are they voting for Kamala? Which she should virtually be a part of the Democratic crew. You know, the Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, AOC, and I can't even remember the other one. There's 4. She should pretty much be a part of that crew. She wants to radically change the country. She wants to bring in the Green New Deal and raise that. You know, so I'm not going to get into particular points, but she's radical. She's a very radical person. So enough with that. Let's see, what's my 4th point? I'll do it in another video. This video is up to about 23 and a half minutes or so now. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this one down, take a look at it, see how the audio quality is, and go ahead and post it. So have a good one. Peace out.